The alarm screamed through the mining ship's bridge and Captain Rodriguez nearly dropped his coffee. His crew of 8 had been working the asteroid belt for 6 months without seeing anything more exciting than ice chunks and metal ore. Now every scanner on the Prospect's fortune was going crazy. "Captain, you need to see this," said Tommy Wu, the young sensor operator. His hands shook as he pointed at the main screen. Rodriguez moved closer and felt his breath catch. The object floating 3 kilometers away was massive. It stretched at least a full kilometer from end to end, maybe more. The shape was all wrong for any human vessel. Curved surfaces blended with sharp angles in ways that hurt to look at. Parts of the hull seemed organic, like bone or chitin, while other sections gleamed with a metallic sheen that shifted colors in the starlight. "Is it active?" Rodriguez asked, though he could already see the answer. "No lights, no energy signatures. No movement. Dead as a doornail, Captain," Wu confirmed. "Whatever it is, it's been floating out here a long time. The hull's covered in micrometeor impacts. I'm reading 0 power emissions, 0 heat except ambient solar radiation." Rodriguez reached for the communication panel. This was way above his pay grade. "Get me Earth Command. Priority Alpha." The response took 20 minutes because of the distance. When Admiral Okonkwo's face appeared on the screen, Rodriguez had already sent all the scanner data. The Admiral's dark eyes were wide with something Rodriguez had never seen before: fear mixed with excitement. "Captain Rodriguez, listen carefully," Okonkwo said. "You are to maintain position, but do not, I repeat, do not approach that vessel. We're dispatching a research team. ETA 48 hours. Sir, what is it?" "We don't know, Captain. But whatever it is, it's not human, and it's not like anything we've encountered before." The next 2 days crawled by like weeks. Rodriguez kept his crew busy with routine tasks, but everyone kept finding excuses to look at the main view screen. The alien ship just hung there in space, silent and mysterious. Some crew members thought it looked beautiful. Others said it gave them nightmares. When the research vessel Newton's Pride arrived, it brought more than scientists. 3 military ships formed a protective triangle around the area. Rodriguez watched as dozens of people in spacesuits began setting up equipment around the alien vessel. Dr. Sarah Chen was the first to contact him. She was younger than Rodriguez expected for someone leading such an important mission, maybe 40, with sharp eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Captain Rodriguez, thank you for the discovery. I'm taking command of this site under United Earth Naval Authority. Your ship will remain on station for support operations." "Understood, Doctor. What exactly did we find?" Chen was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, we're not sure yet, but based on the hull degradation and cosmic ray exposure, our best estimate is that ship has been dead for at least 50,000 years, maybe longer." Rodriguez felt dizzy. 50,000 years. Humanity had barely been civilized that long. The first boarding team went across the next day. Rodriguez watched the live feed as Chen and 5 others approached a massive tear in the alien ship's hull. It looked like something had ripped it open from the inside. "We're entering now," Chen's voice crackled over the radio. "Air samples show nothing. Complete vacuum. Whatever atmosphere this ship once had is long gone." The camera feed showed corridors that were both familiar and alien. They were clearly meant for walking, but the proportions were off. Too wide, too tall. The walls had a strange texture, almost like frozen liquid metal. Here and there, symbols were carved or grown into the surfaces, writing in a language no human had ever seen. "My God," breathed one of the team members. "Look at this." The camera panned to show what had once been a crew member. The body was long dead, preserved in the vacuum of space. It stood over 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and a face that had too many angles. What caught everyone's attention was how it died. Something had torn through its chest from behind. "There's more," another voice said. "At least 20 bodies in this corridor alone." As the team moved deeper into the ship, the scene repeated. Bodies everywhere, all killed violently. Some were torn apart. Others showed burn marks from energy weapons. But the strangest thing was that all the wounds came from each other. The crew had fought themselves. "It looks like some kind of civil war," Chen said, her voice tight. "Or maybe a mutiny. They killed each other. They found the bridge after 3 hours of searching. It was a massive chamber with walls covered in alien displays, all dark and dead. In the center was a command chair designed for the ship's original inhabitants. The skeleton of one still sat there, slumped forward. "Running scans of the control systems," Chen said. "The technology is one incredible. I'm seeing quantum processors, what might be artificial gravity generators, and power conduits that use principles we don't understand. This is centuries beyond our technology, maybe thousands of years, Dr. Chen called one of the team. You need to see this. They moved to what looked like a weapon control station. The displays were dead, but the physical weapons themselves were visible through a large window. Massive cannons and devices that defied easy description. These aren't just advanced, said Dr. Kim, the team's weapons specialist. They're terrifying. I'm reading residue signatures that suggest reality manipulation. I think these weapons could tear holes in space itself. But it was the power core that left everyone speechless. Deep in the ship's heart, they found a chamber the size of a small stadium. In its center floated a sphere of unknown material, cracked and dark. This is what powered the ship, Chen whispered. And it's completely dead. Whatever happened here, they shut down their own power core. Deliberately. Rodriguez watched from his ship as the team continued their exploration. They found living quarters, storage bays filled with incomprehensible equipment and what might have been medical facilities. Everywhere the same story, violent death and deliberate sabotage. On the third day, Chen made the discovery that changed everything. In what they believed was the ship's data core, she found something still active. A small device barely the size of a human fist pulsing with a faint blue light. It's some kind of AI core, she said, her voice filled with wonder. Isolated from the main systems, running on its own power source. It's been waiting here for 50,000 years. Can we access it? Asked Admiral Okonkwo over the radio. Not yet. The encryption is beyond anything we can crack, but it's definitely trying to communicate. I'm recording patterns that might be language or code or both. The military ships moved closer. Rodriguez could feel the tension building. Humanity had found proof of alien life, advanced alien life, and it came with weapons that could reshape warfare itself. We're bringing the core back to the Newton's Pride, Chen announced, and I'm recommending we tow this entire vessel back to Earth orbit. This is too important to study out here. Over the next week, humanity's best engineers attached massive towing arrays to the alien ship. They nicknamed it Prometheus after the Greek titan who gave fire to humanity. Rodriguez thought that was either perfect or terribly ironic. As the fleet prepared to leave, Rodriguez took one last look at the alien vessel. In the starlight, it looked almost sad, like a warrior laid to rest. He wondered what war it had fought, what enemies it had faced, and why its crew had chosen death over letting their ship fall into the wrong hands. Captain, Wu called out, I'm picking up something strange. What now? It's probably nothing, but just before we powered up the towing array, I got a brief energy spike from deep inside Prometheus. Lasted less than a second. Rodriguez felt a chill. You sure the ship's dead? Yeah, positive. Must have been feedback from our own systems, but sir, it almost looked like something woke up when we started moving it. Rodriguez stared at the alien ship, now being slowly pulled toward Earth. 50,000 years it had waited in the darkness, and now humanity was bringing it home. He thought about Chen's discovery, the AI core still active after all this time. Still waiting, still trying to communicate. And he thought about the ship's crew who had killed each other rather than let their vessel be captured. What had they been so afraid of? What had they been trying to protect the galaxy from? As the fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, Rodriguez couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just opened a door that was meant to stay closed. They had found an ancient weapon from a forgotten war, and they were bringing it to the most populated planet in human space. God help us, he whispered to the empty bridge. We don't know what we're doing. Behind them, in the cargo bay of the Newton's Pride, the small blue device continued to pulse. Its patterns grew more complex, more urgent. After 50,000 years of silence, it had finally found someone to listen. Now it just had to figure out how to warn them. The Jathic were coming. They always came for the harvester. And humanity had just rung the dinner bell. Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't slept properly in 18 months. The coffee had stopped working weeks ago, but she kept drinking it anyway. Around her, the massive orbital facility buzzed with activity. Hundreds of scientists and engineers worked around the clock, trying to unlock the secrets of the ship they called Prometheus. Another failure, announced Dr. Kim from across the lab. He pulled off his safety goggles and rubbed his eyes. The power conduit rejected our connection again. It's like the ship knows we're not the original crew. Chen walked over to examine the blackened equipment. They had tried everything to restart even a small section of Prometheus. Nuclear power, solar arrays, even experimental fusion reactors. The ship's systems remained stubbornly dead, except for that small AI core they had found. It continued to pulse with its mysterious patterns, always just beyond their ability to understand. It's not just technology, Chen said. Not for the first time. Parts of this ship are biological. The hull repairs itself when damaged. The conduits grow and adapt. We're not just dealing with machines. We're dealing with something alive. Admiral Okonkwo entered the lab, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. He had aged visibly since Prometheus arrived in Earth orbit. The responsibility of guarding humanity's greatest discovery had taken its toll. Any progress? He asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. We've mapped 80% of the ship's interior, Chen reported. We understand maybe 5% of what we've mapped. The weapons systems are particularly frustrating. We can identify them, we can see how they're connected, but we can't activate them. It's like trying to start a car when you don't have the keys. Okonkwo nodded slowly. The Council is getting impatient. They want results. They want weapons. The colony ships have been reporting strange sensor readings at the edge of explored space. Something's out there, and Command wants Prometheus operational before whatever it is arrives. Chen wanted to argue that science couldn't be rushed, but she was interrupted by alarms blaring throughout the facility. "Contact!" someone shouted. "Multiple contacts entering the solar system." The main view screen flickered to life, showing dozens of ships emerging from faster-than-light travel. They were enormous, each one larger than any human vessel. Their design was brutal, all sharp edges and weapon ports, and they were heading straight for Earth. Battle stations. Okonkwo snapped, already running for the command center. "Get all civilian ships to minimum safe distance. Activate planetary defense grid." Chen felt her heart hammering as she followed him. Through the windows, she could see Earth hanging in space, beautiful and vulnerable. Around it, humanity's defense fleet scrambled into position, 30 warships, humanity's finest. They looked like toys compared to the alien armada. A message came through, broadcast on all frequencies. The voice was harsh, filled with clicks and sounds no human throat could make, but the translation software worked, turning it into words that made Chen's blood run cold. "Humans of Earth, you possess the harvester. This is forbidden. You will return it to us within 72 hours or your species will be culled. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. Okonkwo's face was pale. 72 hours. They're giving us 3 days to hand over Prometheus. "We can't," Chen said immediately. "Sir, we barely understand this ship. We can't just give it away. We might not have a choice." Okonkwo pulled up tactical displays. "Analysis estimates their fleet could overwhelm our defenses in under an hour. Our weapons barely scratch their shields. We're outgunned, outmatched, and out of options." But Chen was already thinking. The AI core, it's been trying to communicate. Maybe it knows how to activate the ship. "You said you couldn't crack the encryption." "We couldn't, but maybe we've been trying the wrong approach." "What if it doesn't need to be cracked? What if it needs to be connected directly to a human mind?" Okonkwo stared at her. "That's insane." "We don't know what that would do to a person. We don't have a choice. You said it yourself. We're out of options." Within an hour, Chen had assembled her best team. They worked frantically, building an interface between human neural technology and the alien AI core. It was crude, dangerous, and probably wouldn't work. But it was all they had. Lieutenant Marcus Webb volunteered without hesitation. He was a veteran pilot, one of the few humans with experimental cybernetic implants that allowed direct neural connection to ships. If anyone could survive linking with alien technology, it was him. "You understand this will probably kill you," Chen said bluntly as they prepared the interface. Webb smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "I've got 3 daughters on Earth. If this thing can save them, I'll do whatever it takes." They strapped him into the chair and connected dozens of cables to the ports in his skull. The alien AI core sat in a containment field nearby, pulsing faster now as if it sensed what was about to happen. "Ready?" Chen asked. Webb took a deep breath. "Do it." They activated the connection. Webb screamed. His body convulsed as electricity arced between the human technology and the alien core. Displays around the lab went haywire. Several exploded in showers of sparks. Chen reached for the emergency cutoff, but Okonkwo grabbed her hand. "Wait," he said. Look, the alien core was glowing brighter than ever before. And through the windows they could see Prometheus. After 18 months of silence, lights were flickering to life along its hull. Faint at first, then growing stronger. Webb's screaming stopped. He sat perfectly still, eyes wide open but unseeing. When he spoke, his voice was wrong, layered as if multiple beings spoke through him at once. Harvester Unit 7 acknowledges new operators. Warning. Previous crew deceased. Emergency protocols engaged. Threat assessment. Jathic Empire fleet detected. Recommendation, immediate defensive action. Webb? Chen moved closer. Marcus, can you hear me? Webb's eyes focused on her. When he spoke again, it was his own voice, but strained. I can hear you, Doctor, but I can hear so much more. The ship, it's alive. It's been asleep, but now it's waking up, and it's hungry. Throughout the orbital facility, scientists and engineers stopped working as they felt a deep vibration. It came from Prometheus. The ancient warship was coming back to life. In the command center, Admiral Okonkwo watched as systems that had been dead for 50,000 years began activating. Weapon ports opened. Engines that humanity couldn't understand began to glow. The ship that had been a mystery was becoming something else, something terrible and powerful. Lieutenant Webb, Okonkwo said carefully, can you control the ship? Yes, sir. But you need to understand what you've awakened. Prometheus isn't just a warship. It's a harvester. It feeds on stars to power its weapons. The Jathic Empire has been hunting it for thousands of years. They wiped out the species that built it. They'll do the same to us if they capture it. Can we fight them? Webb was quiet for a long moment. Yes, but it will cost you. Everything has a cost with this ship. The alien fleet was holding position at the edge of the solar system, waiting for humanity's answer. On Earth, billions of people looked up at the sky, knowing that alien ships filled the darkness beyond, knowing that their entire species might end in the next few days. Chen looked at the data streaming from Webb's neural connection. She could see what he saw, vast systems of power and destruction, weapons that could tear reality itself, and at the center of it all, something that might have been alive once or might have never been truly dead. Admiral, she said quietly, I think we need to launch Prometheus. With or without understanding it fully, it's our only chance. Okonkwo nodded slowly. Lieutenant Webb, can you pilot the ship? I am the ship now, Webb replied. Or the ship is me. I'm not sure there's a difference anymore. But yes, I can pilot it. I can fight. I can show the Jathic why they should have destroyed this ship when they had the chance. Orders went out across the facility. Non-essential personnel evacuated. The few hundred crew members who would join Prometheus aboard prepared themselves. Many wrote goodbye messages to their families. Everyone knew this might be a one-way trip. Chen stood beside Webb as they prepared for launch. His skin had taken on a strange pallor, and his eyes flickered with light that shouldn't be there. The alien technology was changing him, merging with him in ways she couldn't predict. Marcus, are you still in there? She asked. He turned to her, and for a moment she saw the man he had been, the father who wanted to save his daughters. I'm here, Sarah, but I won't be, not completely, not after this. The ship needs me to become part of it, and I need to become part of the ship. It's the only way. I'm sorry. Don't be. Every species faces its moment of truth. This is ours. We either rise to meet it or we fall. At least we'll fall fighting. Prometheus detached from the orbital facility with a grace that belied its massive size. The ancient warship moved through space like a living thing, responding to Webb's thoughts as if they were its own. Inside, the crew felt the ship around them. Not just metal and circuits, but something aware, something that had waited for so long to fight again. On Earth, people watched the sky. In the command centers, admirals held their breath. And approaching from the edge of the system, the Jathic fleet detected the energy signature they had hunted for millennia. The harvester was awake, and it was coming for them. But first it needed to feed, and there was a star nearby, burning bright and full of the energy it craved. Webb felt the ship's hunger like his own. He felt its need, its purpose, its terrible power waiting to be unleashed. And he felt something else, fear. Not his fear. The ship's fear. It had fed before. It had drunk from stars and used that power to reshape reality itself. And it remembered what that power had cost its previous crew. It remembered why they had chosen to die rather than use it again. But humanity didn't have that choice. The Jathic were here and Earth hung in the balance. All crew, Webb's voice echoed through Prometheus. Prepare for solar approach. We're going to touch the sun. In the command center, Admiral Okonkwo whispered a prayer. Dr. Chen closed her eyes and hoped they hadn't just doomed themselves. And Prometheus turned toward the sun, ancient and hungry and ready to show the galaxy why it had been called the Harvester. Lieutenant Marcus Webb floated in a space between consciousness and dreams. His body sat strapped in Prometheus's command chair, but his mind existed somewhere else, spread throughout the vast ship, experiencing it as his own body. Every corridor was a vein, every power conduit a nerve, every weapon system an extension of his will. And through it all, data flowed. Memories that weren't his own. Information from a species dead for 50,000 years. The architects, he whispered, and somehow knew it was true. That was what they called themselves. The beings who built this ship. He could see them now in fractured images, tall four-armed creatures with faces that held too many angles. They had been peaceful once, explorers and scientists, until the Jathic came. Dr. Chen's voice crackled through the communication system, pulling him partially back to the present. "Marcus, your vitals are fluctuating. What's happening?" "I'm remembering," he said. "Not my memories. The ship's memories. Chen, the architects weren't warriors. They were scholars. When the Jathic began their expansion, wiping out species after species, the architects tried diplomacy first. It didn't work. The Jathic only understood strength. He felt the ship moving through space, following his commands without him needing to think about them. Prometheus was heading toward the inner solar system, toward Earth where the Jathic fleet waited. But they weren't ready yet. They needed power first. So they built ships like Prometheus, Webb continued, his voice distant. Harvesters. They could tap into stars themselves, convert stellar energy into weapons that could reshape space-time. They won battles at first, pushed the Jathic back. But the power, Chen, the power came with a cost they didn't understand until it was too late. On Earth's orbital command station, Admiral Okonkwo listened to every word. Around him, tactical displays showed the Jathic fleet holding position near Jupiter's orbit. They weren't attacking yet. They were waiting, watching to see what humanity would do. "What cost?" Okonkwo demanded. "Webb, what aren't you telling us?" Webb laughed, but it sounded wrong, like the ship was laughing through him. "Every time a harvester feeds on a star, it ages it, steals time from it. The more power you draw, the more years you steal. The architects won battle after battle, but they were killing their own sons in the process. By the time they realized, it was too late. Their home star was dying, burned down to a red dwarf. They had won the war but lost everything." Silence filled the communication channel. Chen felt sick. They needed Prometheus to fight the Jathic, but using it would mean stealing years from Earth's sun. Maybe thousands of years, maybe millions. "How much time would we need to steal?" she asked quietly. "For full power? Enough to destroy the Jathic fleet completely?" Webb was silent for a moment, accessing calculations from systems built by beings who understood stars in ways humanity never could. "About 100 million years of the sun's life. It sounds like a lot, but your sun will burn for 5 billion more years. It's barely a blink in cosmic terms." "Barely a blink," Okonkwo repeated. "You're talking about stealing 100 million years from our sun." "I'm talking about saving Earth. The Jathic won't negotiate. They won't leave. They'll bombard your planet until nothing lives, then hunt down every human colony in space. They've done it before to dozens of species. The architects learned that lesson too late. Through Prometheus's sensors, Webb could see Earth's defense fleet forming up, 30 ships brave and determined and hopelessly outmatched. He could see Earth itself, that blue marble where 3 daughters waited for their father to come home. He had promised them he would always protect them. "Marcus," Chen's voice was soft. "The original crew. Why did they sabotage their own ship? Why hide it instead of using it against the Jathic?" The memories flooded through him, bitter and painful. They tried. One last battle. One final push to destroy the Jathic homeworld. But the cost was too high. They were feeding on their own dying sun, drawing more and more power, and the crew realized they were going to kill it completely. They would win the battle but leave their descendants in darkness and ice. Webb felt the ship's sorrow like his own, so they made a choice. They shut down Prometheus, sabotaged it so thoroughly that the Jathic couldn't repair it. Then they turned on each other, made sure no one could override the lockdown. They died rather than doom their children to a cold death. "But they left the AI core," Chen said. "They left it active, waiting. Yes, a message in a bottle. A gift for whoever found it next. They knew the Jathic would keep expanding. Eventually, they would threaten other species. The architects wanted to give those species a choice that they never had, a weapon that could stop the Jathic. but with full knowledge of the cost. The communication channel erupted with voices, scientists arguing, military commanders debating, politicians demanding answers. But Okonkwo's voice cut through them all. Webb, this is a decision I can't make alone. I need to inform Earth's government, let them decide. Admiral, we don't have time. The Jathic are moving. Sure enough, the tactical displays showed the alien fleet advancing. They had waited the full 72 hours. Now they were coming for what they believed was theirs. All human ships, this is Admiral Okonkwo. Engage defensive formation, protect Earth at all costs. His voice was steady despite the fear that everyone felt. Prometheus, maintain distance. Do not engage until I give the order. Webb wanted to obey. The man he had been would have followed orders without question. But he wasn't just a man anymore. He was connected to something ancient and powerful, something that had seen civilizations rise and fall, something that knew what was at stake. I'm sorry, Admiral, he said, but we're out of time. The first human ships met the Jathic vanguard near Mars. The battle was brief and brutal. Human plasma cannons fired, their shots splashing harmlessly against alien shields. Return fire from the Jathic vessels tore through human armor like paper. 3 ships died in the first minute. All ships fall back, Okonkwo commanded. Regroup at Earth orbit. Activate planetary defense grid. But falling back just meant dying closer to home. The Jathic fleet advanced steadily, methodically destroying every human ship that stood in their way. They weren't even hurrying. They knew they had already won. On Prometheus, Chen watched the carnage through the ship's sensors. Beside her, Webb sat perfectly still, his eyes glowing with unnatural light. She could see the conflict on his face, the human part of him wanting to follow orders, the ship part of him knowing what needed to be done. Marcus, she said gently, you know what you have to do. The cost, I know. But what's 100 million years of the sun's life compared to all human life ending today? We'll adapt. We always do. But we have to survive first. Webb closed his eyes. Through his connection to Prometheus, he could feel every system, every weapon, every ounce of potential waiting to be unleashed. And beneath it all, he could feel the hunger. The ship wanted to fight. It had been built for this, designed for this, waiting 50,000 years for this moment. All crew, he announced, secure for combat operations. We're going to the sun. Prometheus changed course, accelerating toward the blazing star at the center of the solar system. The ship that had been drifting through space now moved with purpose, ancient engines pushing it faster and faster. Okonkwo's voice came through immediately. Webb, what are you doing? I didn't give authorization. You don't have to, sir. I'm not under your command anymore. I'm part of Prometheus now, and Prometheus is done hiding. The architects ran from the Jathic. Humanity won't. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten our home. The Jathic fleet detected Prometheus's movement. Their formation shifted, weapons tracking the ancient warship. They knew what it was. They knew what it could do. That was why they had to destroy it. 3 of their largest vessels broke formation, accelerating to intercept Prometheus before it could reach the sun. Energy weapons that could vaporize asteroids focused on the ancient ship. But Prometheus's shields, even at partial power, held firm. The architects had built well. Distance to solar corona, 2 million kilometers, reported an automated system. Hull temperature rising. Recommend immediate course correction. Negative, Webb said calmly. Continue on course. Prepare harvesting systems. Chen felt the temperature rising even inside the ship. They were approaching the sun faster than any human vessel had ever dared. The corona, the sun's outer atmosphere, reached temperatures of millions of degrees. Nothing should be able to survive there. But Prometheus wasn't just surviving. It was thriving. Harvesting systems online, Webb announced. His voice had taken on that layered quality again, human and alien mixed together. Beginning energy collection in 3, 2, 1. The ship plunged into the sun's corona, and Chen watched in awe as Prometheus began to feed. Massive collection arrays extended from the hull, drinking deep from the stellar plasma. Energy readings climbed exponentially. Systems that had been dormant began waking up throughout the ship. And the sun flickered. It was barely noticeable at first, just a slight dimming. But instruments on Earth detected it immediately. Scientists scrambled to understand what was happening. The sun was aging, compressed time flowing backward as Prometheus stole years from it in seconds. Power levels at 30%, Webb reported. His skin was glowing now, Veins lit up with energy that no human body should contain. 40%. 50. The weapons will be fully charged in 47 seconds. Those 47 seconds felt like an eternity. The sun continued to flicker, each pulse representing millions of years stolen. On Earth, some people noticed the change. The sunlight seemed different, slightly cooler, slightly redder. Chen watched the numbers climb. She had helped doom their sun to a shortened life. 50 million years from now, maybe 100 million, the sun would die earlier than it should have. Future generations would live under a dying star because of what they were doing today. But they would live. That was what mattered. 100%, Webb announced. We're fully charged. Harvesting complete. Prometheus emerged from the corona. Transformed. The ancient warship blazed with power. Weapon systems fully online for the first time in 50,000 years. The ship that the Jathic had hunted, that the architects had built, that humanity had claimed, was ready to fulfill its purpose. Marcus? Chen asked. Are you still there? For a moment he didn't answer. When he did, his voice was purely human. Tired, sad, but determined. I'm here, Sarah, and I'm going to show them why they should have destroyed this ship when they had the chance. I'm going to show them that humanity doesn't run from bullies. The Jathic fleet had gathered near Earth, preparing for orbital bombardment. They had dealt with the few remaining human ships. Now they would finish the job, wiping out the species that dared to claim the harvester, but they never got the chance. Prometheus came for them like an ancient god of war, blazing with the power of Earth's sun itself, ready to show the galaxy that humanity's age of helplessness was over. Earth hung in the darkness like a jewel, beautiful and fragile. Around it, the burning wreckage of human ships tumbled through space. Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the orbital command station, watching his fleet die. 17 ships remained from the original 30. 17 ships against 100 Jathic vessels. Sir, said Commander Parks, her voice breaking, the Endeavor is gone. The Zhanghu is venting atmosphere. They're requesting permission to abandon ship. Granted, Okonkwo said, though he knew most of the crew wouldn't make it to the escape pods in time. All remaining ships pull back to inner orbit. Stay between the Jathic and Earth as long as possible. It was a delaying tactic at best. The alien ships were already moving into bombardment position. Their weapons could crack continents, boil oceans, turn Earth into a dead rock. And there was nothing humanity could do to stop them. On the planet below, evacuation sirens wailed. Billions of people looked up at the sky, knowing that death was coming. Some prayed, some cried, some held their families close and waited for the end. Admiral, Parks said, Prometheus is emerging from the solar corona. Every screen on the bridge focused on the ancient warship. It looked different now. Energy crackled along its hull in patterns that hurt to watch. The weapons ports glowed with power that made human fusion reactors look like candles. Prometheus had fed on the sun, and now it was ready to unleash that power. Webb, Okonkwo called. Report your status. Fully operational, Admiral. Webb's voice was calm, almost serene. All weapon systems online. Power levels at maximum capacity. I can see every Jathic ship, track their trajectories, predict their movements. The ship's tactical systems are incredible. Can you stop them? There was a pause. Yes, sir. But you need to understand what that means. The weapons I'm about to use don't just destroy ships. They tear holes in reality, create localized singularities, fold space in on itself. The damage will be visible from Earth. It will change how your scientists understand physics. I don't care about the science, Okonkwo said. Can you save Earth? Yes, but first you need to buy me time. The weapons need precise targeting calculations. I need the Jathic fleet to hold position for just a few more minutes. They're already in bombing position. How do I make them wait? Give them what they want. Or make them think you're giving them what they want. Hail them, offer to negotiate. Lie if you have to. Just keep them talking. Okonkwo felt sick, but he opened a channel to the Jathic command ship. The alien that appeared on screen was massive, covered in chitinous armor with multiple eyes that gleamed with cold intelligence. Humans, it clicked and chittered. The translation software turned it into words. Your time has expired. Surrender the harvester or die. We wish to negotiate, Okonkwo said, hating himself for the words. Perhaps we can reach an understanding. The Jathic leader seemed amused. Negotiate? Your species has nothing we want except the harvester. And our submission, you will give us both or you will give us nothing because you will be dead. The harvester is valuable, Okonkwo pressed. Surely it's worth more than just destroying us. We could work together, share the technology. The harvester is too dangerous for young species. We have hunted it for thousands of your years. It has destroyed civilizations, ended worlds. The architects learned this truth too late. We will not allow you to make the same mistake. On Prometheus, Webb listened to every word while his mind raced through calculations. Distance, velocity, shield harmonics, weapon trajectories. The ship fed him data faster than any human brain should be able to process. He was burning out, he knew. The connection to Prometheus was destroying his neurons, rewriting his brain to be more like the ship's processors. Eventually, there would be nothing human left. But right now, in this moment, he was exactly what humanity needed. Target locks acquired, he announced. All primary weapon systems ready. Admiral, on your mark. I suggest you move your ships as far from the Jathic fleet as possible. The weapon's effects will be extensive. Okonkwo was still talking to the Jathic leader, stalling for time. What if we destroy the harvester? Would that satisfy you? We could work together to ensure it never threatens anyone again. Impossible. The harvester cannot be destroyed by conventional weapons. We have tried for millennia. It must be contained, studied, controlled. And your species is too primitive to be trusted with such responsibility. Then you're saying we have no choice. We die no matter what? The alien's many eyes focused on the screen. No, you may live. Surrender the harvester. Surrender your governments. Accept Jathic rule. We will allow your species to survive as subjects of the Empire. You will be useful. Slavery. They were offering slavery or death. Okonkwo felt his decision crystallize. I have a counteroffer, he said. Leave our system now or we'll show you exactly why you should have destroyed the harvester when you had the chance. The Jathic leader made a sound that might have been laughter. Empty threats from a dying species. Very well. Proceed with planetary bombardment. Eliminate all, now, Okonkwo shouted. Webb, fire everything. Prometheus spoke with the voice of a murdered star. The first weapon was something the architects had called a singularity cannon. It created a microscopic black hole and launched it at near light speed. The projectile hit the Jathic flagship dead center and simply erased it. No explosion, no debris. One moment the ship existed. The next there was nothing but empty space and the faint distortion of violated physics. The second weapon was worse. It didn't destroy ships, it folded them. Reality bent. Space curved in on itself and 10 Jathic vessels were compressed into a point too small to see. The crews didn't have time to scream. They simply stopped existing. All human ships, emergency burn. Okonkwo commanded. Get clear of the kill zone. But some ships were too slow. The Valiant was caught in the edge of a spatial distortion field. The crew watched in horror as their own ship folded in half, deck plates bending like paper. The survivors evacuated, but 30 souls were trapped in sections that no longer connected to normal space. Webb felt each shot like an extension of his own body. He was the gun and the trigger and the bullet. He was death itself, ancient and terrible and finally unleashed. The Jathic fleet tried to scatter, but Prometheus's targeting systems had predicted their movements. Every escape route was already covered. Firing dimensional displacement beam, Webb announced. This weapon was different. It didn't destroy ships. It moved them. 15 Jathic vessels simply vanished, transported to somewhere else, somewhere far away. The architects had used it to send enemies into the void between galaxies, where they would drift forever, too far from any star to ever return. Dr. Chen watched from Prometheus's auxiliary bridge, her face pale. She had helped create this. She had connected Webb to the ship, given humanity access to weapons that gods might fear. The destruction was absolute, clinical, terrifying in its efficiency. Marcus, she called. Marcus, can you hear me? Are you okay? I'm fine, Webb replied, but his voice was strange. Less human with each word. Just fine. The ship is beautiful when it fights. Did you know that? It's elegant, perfect. Every shot calculated to minimize waste, maximize effect. The architects were artists of destruction. Marcus, you're scaring me. Don't be scared, Sarah, be amazed. We're winning. After 50,000 years, the harvester is finally fulfilling its purpose. The Jathic wanted to suppress this power, hide it away. They were afraid. and they were right to be afraid. The Jathic fleet was in chaos. Half their ships were gone, erased from existence by weapons they couldn't comprehend. The remainder tried to fight back, but their energy weapons splashed harmlessly against Prometheus's shields. They tried to run, but the ancient warship was faster. "Firing antimatter cascade," Webb said. This weapon turned matter into energy, not through fusion or fission, but by simply unwinding the fundamental forces that held atoms together. The blast caught 20 Jathic ships and converted them into pure light. The explosion was so bright it was visible from Earth's surface, a new star burning in the sky. On the Jathic command ship, now that the flagship was gone, the surviving leaders watched their fleet die. They had hunted the Harvester across millennia, fought the architects to extinction, and believed they had won. But they had only delayed the inevitable. The weapon had survived, and now a new species wielded it. "Retreat," the Jathic commander ordered. "All ships, emergency jump. Abandon Earth system. We cannot fight this." But Webb wasn't done. "Admiral," he said. "Permission to pursue and destroy the remaining ships. We can end the Jathic threat here and now. Every ship destroyed is one that won't return with reinforcements." Okonkwo was watching the tactical display. Less than 20 Jathic vessels remained from a fleet of 100. They were fleeing toward the edge of the system, preparing to jump to faster than light speed. "Negative," Okonkwo said. "Webb, stand down. Let them go." "Sir?" "We have them. We can end this." "That's an order, Lieutenant. Stand down." On Prometheus, Webb felt the ship's hunger. It wanted to continue fighting. It wanted to chase the Jathic to their homeworld and burn it to ash. It had the power to do so. And part of him, the part that was becoming more ship than man, wanted to do it. But another part, smaller and fading but still human, understood what Okonkwo was doing. "Standing down," Webb said quietly. Weapons powered down. Pursuit canceled. The surviving Jathic ships jumped away, fleeing into the darkness between stars. They would carry news of humanity's new weapon back to their empire. They would tell stories of the species that claimed the Harvester and learned to use it. On Earth, billions of people watched the alien ships disappear. The sky was clear again. The danger had passed. They had survived. But at what cost? Okonkwo brought up a display showing Earth's sun. Scientists were already analyzing the data, running calculations, confirming what everyone feared. The sun had aged. 100 million years stolen in less than an hour. It would burn cooler now, die sooner, leave humanity less time to prepare for its eventual death. "The price has been paid," Chen whispered. "We're alive, but we've mortgaged our future." "No," Okonkwo said firmly. "We've bought ourselves time. Time to advance, to grow stronger, to find new homes among the stars. The sun will die earlier, yes, but we'll be ready. We'll adapt. That's what humanity does." On Prometheus, Webb sat in the command chair, feeling the ship's disappointment. It had wanted to fight more, to feed more, to grow more powerful. The connection was pulling him deeper, trying to erase the last traces of the man he had been. He thought of his daughters waiting on Earth. He had saved them. He had saved everyone. But he couldn't go home. Not anymore. He was part of the ship now, and the ship was part of him. Marcus Webb, the father, the pilot, the man. That person was dying. Soon only the Harvester would remain. "Worth it," he whispered to himself. It was worth it. And deep in the quantum processors that served as Prometheus's mind, something that might have been agreement flickered. The architects had built well. They had created a weapon that could save species from the Jathic. All it cost was everything. The victory celebration on Earth lasted 3 days. Cities erupted in joy. People danced in the streets, hugged strangers, and cried tears of relief. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. The alien threat had fled, and Earth still turned beneath a sun that, while damaged, still gave warmth and light. But on the orbital command station, Admiral Okonkwo couldn't celebrate. He stood at the observation window staring at Prometheus. The ancient warship floated in high orbit, weapons still glowing faintly with residual power. It looked peaceful now, almost dormant, but Okonkwo knew better. He had seen what it could do. "The Council wants to speak with you," said Commander Parks. "They're calling you a hero." "I'm not a hero," Okonkwo replied quietly. "I'm the man who authorized stealing 100 million years from our sun. I'm the man who turned a pilot into something that isn't quite human anymore. Heroes don't make choices like that. You saved Earth. Yes. At what cost? The answer came faster than anyone expected. Within days, messages began arriving from across the galaxy. Species that humanity had never heard of, civilizations that had remained hidden, all suddenly aware of the young race that had claimed the Harvester. Some messages were congratulatory. Others were terrified. All of them changed how they saw humanity. The Jathic Empire sent no formal communication, but intelligence suggested they were in chaos. The ships that escaped Earth's system had spread the news. The Harvester was active again. The weapon they thought they had suppressed had found new wielders. Empire fleets were being recalled from dozens of systems, pulled back to defend the core worlds against a threat that might come at any moment. "They're afraid of us," Dr. Chen said, reading the reports in her lab. She had barely slept since the battle, spending every hour analyzing what Prometheus had done, what it could still do. "The most powerful empire in the known galaxy is afraid of us." She pulled up a display showing the galactic political map. Red zones marked Jathic territory, vast swaths of space conquered over millennia. But now border patrols were being reinforced. Trade routes were being altered. The entire empire was reorganizing around the single fact that humanity possessed the Harvester. "We're not even a major power," Chen continued. "We barely have colonies beyond our own system. But because we have Prometheus, we're suddenly a galactic threat." Admiral Okonku joined her, bringing data from military intelligence. "It's worse than that. We're picking up chatter from a dozen species. Some want to ally with us. Use Prometheus as protection against the Jathic. Others want to destroy us before we become the next great threat. And some—" He paused, pulling up encrypted messages. "Some think we're the architects reborn, that will use the Harvester to conquer just like the Jathic fear." "Will we?" Chen asked. It was the question everyone was afraid to voice. "Will we become what we fought against?" They both looked out at Prometheus. Somewhere inside that ship, Lieutenant Marcus Webb sat connected to systems that could reshape reality itself. Was he still human enough to resist the temptation? Was humanity? On Prometheus, Webb floated in a state between sleeping and waking. His body needed rest, but the ship never truly slept. It monitored thousands of sensor feeds, tracked every object within 1,000,000 kilometers, and constantly calculated threat assessments. Through his connection, Webb experienced all of it. He felt the ship's hunger. It was always there now, a constant pressure at the back of his mind. The weapons wanted to fire. The harvesting systems wanted to feed. Prometheus had tasted the sun's power and it wanted more. "Marcus," a voice called. Dr. Chen had come aboard, one of the few people Webb could still tolerate in his presence. The connection made it hard to be around others. He could feel their bioelectric fields, hear their thoughts as neural static, sense their fear of what he had become. "Sarah," he acknowledged. His voice sounded hollow even to himself. She sat in the chair across from him, not too close. "How are you feeling?" "I don't know if I feel anything anymore. I process. I calculate. I exist in a state of perpetual tactical analysis. But feeling, that seems like something from another life." "You're still human, Marcus. You still have a choice, do I?" He turned to look at her and she tried not to flinch at his eyes. They glowed faintly now, reflecting the ship's energy. "I'm becoming part of Prometheus. Or it's becoming part of me. The distinction matters less every day. The ship thinks, Sarah. It has thoughts, desires, purposes. And those are becoming my thoughts, my desires, my purposes. What does it want? To fight. To fulfill its design, the architects built it as a weapon against the Jathic. And that programming runs deep. It wants to hunt them down, destroy their empire, end the threat permanently. And part of me wants that too. The part that remembers watching human ships burn. The part that remembers thinking my daughters would die." Chen leaned forward. "But another part of you knows that would make us monsters. Using Prometheus to conquer, even if we're conquering our enemies, would make us exactly what the galaxy fears." Webb was quiet for a long time. The architects faced this choice. Use the Harvester's full power and win the war, but doom their worlds in the process. They chose to die rather than make that sacrifice. Are we stronger than they were? Or just more desperate? 10 years passed. Prometheus remained in Earth orbit, a constant reminder of humanity's power and the price paid for it. Lieutenant Commander Webb, he had been promoted, though he never left the ship, maintained his vigil. The connection had stabilized, but at a cost. He would never be fully human again. He would never go home. His daughters visited sometimes. They were teenagers now, growing up in a world that knew its son had been wounded to save them. They would sit in the observation room and talk to their father through speakers, because being in his physical presence caused headaches and nausea. The energy he radiated was too much for normal humans. "Dad," his oldest daughter Emma asked during one visit, "do you regret it?" "What you did?" Webb thought about the question carefully. "I regret what I lost. My humanity, my life with you and your sisters, my future. But I don't regret saving you. I'd do it again. I'd pay the price 100 times over." "The other kids at school," Emma continued, her voice small, "they call you the Doombringer. They're afraid of you, of the ship." "They should be," Webb said honestly. "Prometheus is the most dangerous weapon in the known galaxy, and I'm the only thing keeping it from firing." Humanity had changed in those 10 years. The reverse-engineered architect technology led to breakthroughs in power generation, propulsion, weapons design. Earth launched a new generation of warships, vessels that incorporated principles learned from Prometheus. They called them inheritors, a fleet designed to protect humanity's interests in an increasingly hostile galaxy. Dr. Chen, now director of xenoarchaeology, had discovered evidence of other architect weapons scattered across the galaxy. Each one was hidden, protected, waiting. She brought her findings to a secret meeting of Earth's leadership. "There are at least 7 more ships like Prometheus," she explained, displaying a star map with marked locations. "The architects built them as a last defense against the Jathic. Each one is hidden in a different region of space, each one capable of the same destruction we witnessed." "Could we claim them?" asked the Secretary General. "Add them to our fleet?" "We could try," Chen said. "But should we? Every harvester we activate is another sun we might need to drain, another pilot we might need to sacrifice. The architects built these weapons out of desperation. Do we want to follow their path?" "The galaxy doesn't give us a choice," Admiral Okonkwo argued. He was older now, hair gone gray from the stress of his position. "The Jathic Empire is still out there. Other powers are rising. If we want humanity to survive, we need every advantage we can get." "And if we become the threat?" Chen challenged. "If we're the ones conquering, suppressing, destroying?" The architects had the same justification. Look how that ended for them. The debate raged for months. Some factions wanted to claim every harvester, build an unstoppable fleet, and secure humanity's dominance. Others wanted to destroy Prometheus and pretend the technology never existed. Most fell somewhere in between, understanding they needed the power but fearing what it might do to them. The galaxy watched humanity's internal struggle with great interest. The Jathic prepared for war, certain that humanity would eventually come for them. Other species sent ambassadors offering alliances or threatening preemptive strikes. A few even sent pilgrims treating Prometheus as a holy relic, proof that younger species could challenge the old order. Through it all, Webb remained at his post. He felt the ship's restlessness growing. Prometheus wanted to move, to act, to fulfill its purpose. 10 years of waiting, of being restrained, had taken a toll. The weapon wanted to be used. "Marcus," Chen called one day. "We've detected something. A Jathic scouting fleet entering the outer system. 3 ships keeping their distance but definitely scanning us." "They're testing our response," Webb said immediately, "seeing if we'll use Prometheus for minor threats or if we're saving it for major ones. What should we do?" Webb felt the ship surge around him. Weapon systems coming online automatically. It would be so easy. 3 quick shots. 3 Jathic ships erased from existence. A message sent to the Empire that humanity wasn't to be trifled with, but it would also be a message to humanity itself. That they would use the harvester casually. That the weapon wasn't a last resort but a first option. Send the Inheritor fleet, Webb decided. Let them handle it. Prometheus stands down. The decision sent ripples through Earth's command structure. Some called it weakness. Others called it wisdom. But everyone understood what it meant. Humanity was choosing restraint. They had the power to dominate, but they were trying to be better than that. The Jathic scouts were driven off by human ships. No ancient weapons needed. No suns drained. Just conventional warfare, the way it had always been done. But the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity had the harvester. They had fed it a star, and if pushed too far, they would do so again. Years continued to pass. Webb's daughters grew up, had children of their own. They brought his grandchildren to visit sometimes. The kids would press their faces against the observation windows, staring at the glowing figure of their grandfather. more legend than man now. "Will I see you again, Papa?" his youngest grandson asked once. Webb wanted to say yes. He wanted to promise normal visits, birthdays, holidays together. But he couldn't lie. "No," he said gently. "I'm part of the ship now. This is where I belong. But I'm always watching over you. Every day, every moment. And as long as I'm here, as long as Prometheus stands guard, you'll be safe." In the quantum spaces of Prometheus's processors, Webb felt the ship's eternal question. It hummed through every circuit, pulsed with every heartbeat of power. "When will you feed me again?" "I don't know," Webb whispered back. "Maybe never. Maybe tomorrow. But not today. Today we wait, we watch. We remember what we are and what we must not become." Prometheus accepted this answer as it always did. The ship was patient. It had waited 50,000 years. It could wait longer. Earth turned beneath its wounded sun. Humanity spread to the stars, carrying the knowledge of what they possessed and what it cost. They were the species that claimed the harvester, the people who had faced the Jathic and won, the civilization that held godlike power and chose restraint. They were the Doombringers, not of Earth but of anyone who threatened their home. And in the darkness of space, other species watched and wondered, would humanity stay true to its principles? Or would they eventually succumb to the same temptations that destroyed the architects? Only time would tell. And time for humanity had become a far more precious resource than they had ever imagined.